cases. So let's go and talk about those over in the green screen room. Let me get on my motorcycle.
Who cares? Come on, everybody!
All right, the Hillary death count. It's it. When I say 14, I mean 14 slam dunks. But these are only, the 14 that I've chosen here are relatively random, by the by. And inevitably, whenever I put them together, I talk to someone, they go, you forgot this guy. And in fact, when I first put this together, it was at 13, including our new dude. And they go, you forgot Ron Brown. I went, oh, fuck yeah, Ron Brown. So here's another thing you can do on your own time. Look at the big crazy lists. Some lists are nuts. Some lists are 80. Pluck a name out and look it up. And they don't mean much on their own. Oh, the guy who was a chef for the Clintons died in a creek in 1 inch of water. If that was Obama's chef, that would be weird. And I always say that to people, especially liberals. I say Obama has no death count. Besides, of course, the thousands of teenagers he drone struck. Killed using drone strikes in the Middle East. But his chef is fine. Hillary hasn't got that. Now, my theory is, in 1992, Clinton was running for office, sometime around there, and she was desperate to win. She was a conniving, evil bitch and said, we have to save America at all costs. She's a radical. She's a Saul Alinsky woman, and she found out that Clinton was having an affair, Bill Clinton. So she killed the girl. She had the girl killed. That opened a Pandora's box. And she inadvertently started a murder industry. Now I'm hoping that it's beyond her control and she's as mortified as we are. Maybe I'm just trying to inject some morality into her. But this thing has got a mind of its own at this point. And now, if someone fucks with her or someone is a threat to the Clinton enterprise, they mysteriously croak. And she might not even be calling the shots anymore. She might read about Seth Rich and go, oh, fuck, they've done it again. Oh, God. Anyway, so let's look at the newest guy. This dude's name is Valentin Broeksmit. So his dad is a Dutch banker. And his dad has all of this stuff on the Clintons. So I could add his dad to this list, by the way. We're combining the two Broeksmits into one. And he's going through all these banking records. And he discovers a bunch of files. According to the Times, Broeksmit supplied the documents to journalists and others, including Fusion GPS, the research firm linked to an unverified dossier about Trump and investigators with the FBI's New York office. Now, if you recall, Hillary Clinton hired Fusion GPS to get dirt on Trump. They came up with the Steele dossier, the Trump dossier, which was a ridiculous piece of garbage about, I don't know, Trump wanting prostitutes to piss on a bed that Obama was going to sleep on. This is a germaphobe. He wants people to piss on stuff. No. Ann Coulter brought up the germaphobe thing, and you can smell a rat with these lies. That's a thing, too. They're not sending their best. We're not up against geniuses here. They just hired a minister of information. Joe Biden just the other day said, your kids don't belong to you. They belong to the state. Like, the lunatics are running the asylum, and they're terrible at it. So anyway, this banker gets all this Fusion GPS data that could link Hillary. The FEC is still investigating Hillary, I believe, for funding this Steele dossier through Fusion GPS. Find over improper spending. Yeah, she took campaign funds and got Fusion GPS to basically fabricate this ridiculous dossier that no one took seriously with a brain. And so the banker, with this information, commits suicide, and his son, Val, mysteriously dies. He goes AWOL. They say he's homeless, and they just found his dead body. So number one is really the 14th on my list of what I consider slam dunks. Let's go to number two. We all remember Seth Rich, right? He may have been the guy who supplied Julian Assange all the stuff. A lot of lefties were very angry about Bernie getting fucked over by the DNC. A lot of them are socialists, and they see him as the bright new hope. So you see a lot of dissension in the ranks via Bernie supporters on the left. And I think Seth may have been one of these guys. So He was shot in the back of the head in the middle of the night in a not so dangerous part of D.C., I believe. He's talking to his girlfriend on the phone. A gunman came up behind him, shot him to death without taking anything at all. And then Julian Assange personally offered a $20,000 reward for any information leading to his arrest. And they said, "Are you implying that Hillary had him killed?" And Assange said, "I'm just supplying money for information." I believe that Seth Rich was murdered as punishment for embarrassing the Hillary campaign by leaking emails to Julian Assange. See, you'll notice with these things too, there's a lot of like face. It's not even like the mafia, the Italian mafia. It's more like the Mexican drug cartels, where if you do something that makes me look like a bitch, I have to punish you and your family. So this embarrassed Hillary. You don't embarrass El Chapo. So he's dead. Number 3, John Ash. Now, this guy was a UN official. He was in big shit with the law enforcement because he was working with a Chinese billionaire, David Ng, a.k.a. Ng Slap Seng. Hillary Clinton also worked with this Chinese billionaire. So there's going to be exploration here. There's going to be, oh my God, my shitty brain. What's it called when you get to see everyone's emails during a court case? Discovery. There's going to be discovery here. And if you're investigating that Chinese billionaire, Hillary Clinton's involvement with him is going to pop up. We can't have that. We need this John Ash corruption trial to go away. Guess what happened to John Ash? Same thing that happens to millions of people a year. As he was lifting weights, his barbells went back down on his neck. He wasn't strong enough to lift them back up, and he died. Now, I looked this up. It's happened like 3 or 4 times. It's not very common. You can usually, even if you're alone, you can usually wriggle out of the way. He couldn't wriggle. So he died of that. I mean, you can picture the 2 dudes, the 2 Goombas, the 2 hitmen, just sort of pushing down on his neck because he's like, he grabs one of their legs and he's sort of squeezing it, rips the guy's pocket. The guy's like, oh, fuck, my pocket's ripped. Fucking John Ash. Number 4, Paula Gruber. She was an interpreter for the death. She is the hottest woman to be murdered by the Clintons. That's my favorite kind of face. What a looker, huh? She's known as the prettiest victim. Now, her job, I believe this is the one that started the whole thing. She was an interpreter for the deaf back then, and she had reported that Bill Clinton was hitting on her, and she died shortly after saying, "Bill Clinton grabbed my ass," or whatever he did to her that was sexually inappropriate. She was hit by a car. She was hit by a car, hurled 33 feet through the air, and nobody saw the accident. It happened when she was alone, driving in the dark, no other cars around. I believe this is what they wanted to do to Monica Lewinsky. And I spoke to a driver once who said that he had been... he was driving Monica Lewinsky around once. Back when I would do Fox, I'd get these drives back with these guys, this limo service and car service. And he said that there was a car that had swerved at him when he had Monica Lewinsky in the back. And who did we have? It was Paula. Sorry, hold on. There was that woman that she spoke to and gave a long interview with, and many believe that that is why Monica Lewinsky is alive. I'm skipping all over the place here. All right, we'll get to that. What's her name? Anyway. No. Shut up. Paula Jones. That was it. She did a long interview with Monica that she recorded. And Paula herself says, "I saved Monica's life. By making that public and having her a public figure, she couldn't be disappeared like Paula Grober. I saved Monica's life." See, I'm really happy with these. They all feel really solid. Barbells on your neck? So that was back in 92. And I think that was the first thing. I think this is where she got a taste of it. Number 5, Paul Tully. He worked obsessively on the campaign, on Bill's campaign in 92. And he was found dead in his hotel room right after Paula Grober. So someone who knew a lot about Clinton and what he got up to was found dead in his hotel room. Not that consequential in and of itself. With 14 others who were friends with the Clintons, That's curious. And again, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Jimmy Carter, they don't have death counts. Even Joe Biden doesn't have a death count. He's steeped in corruption, and he's a fucking fascist, but his chef is A-okay. Number 6, Vince Foster. Now, this is another biggie, Whitewatergate. They wanted to build, Whitewater was going to be like a vacation housing thing, and they were having trouble pushing it through. It was a major real estate deal, but they needed money to get it going, and no one was that inspired by it. So so Bill Clinton forced a loan to this woman, Susan McDougal. And then she used that. It was a $300,000 loan. She used that money to help push Whitewater. They got caught. Vince Foster was an integral part of this deal. And as they were going to investigate Vince, he put a gun in his mouth and blew his head off. As one does, right? When they're facing, what, $300,000? What are you facing? 2 years in prison? That's not really suicide, town. Now, remember that Susan McDougal was the one who got the loan, her and her husband. And here's something about this case that I always find interesting. I got in trouble with Kennedy on Fox Business for saying that I believe he was murdered. Here's what we know, and here's what they admit. The DNC broke into his office and removed files from his filing cabinets. That's not disputed. That's not a conspiracy theory. Okay, so you have criminals within your organization, and they are willing to commit crimes, and you've admitted to that. All right, this is just a much bigger crime. You know what I mean? It's like, no, I'm not a prostitute. Well, I fucked the football team, and they gave me some money for an Uber, but I've never accepted money for sex. Okay, well, you're in the realm, and it's in the realm of possibilities. Number 7, John Parnell Walker, My Kingdom, for a photo of this dude. I cannot find it anywhere, and I reached out on the internet. No one can. So this guy was investigating Whitewatergate. And then, as one does when one's investigating a case, he jumped off his balcony and committed suicide, quote unquote. Number 8, Jim McDougal. This is the woman who got the money for the deal. That's her husband. That's Susan McDougal's husband. He was arrested and was facing trial. And while he was in jail for this, had he already been charged? Yeah, I think he was in jail awaiting sentencing. So he could spill the beans. He could start, pleading down by throwing them under the bus. He mysteriously had a heart attack in prison, much like Jeffrey Epstein mysteriously hanged himself. By the way, Susan McDougal, she did go to jail. She shut her mouth and made it clear to the Clintons she wasn't going to say anything. And guess what happened to her? Bill Clinton pardoned her. This is what you do when you're involved in the Clintons. You shut your mouth or you die. Again, it's El Chapo. The Italian mafia is much more reasonable. Suzanne Coleman, number 9. This was an attractive pregnant woman. This is in 1997, and she was 7 months pregnant. She had been working with Bill. She had an affair with him. That was all well known when she was the Attorney General in Arkansas. She became pregnant at 7 months. Of course, she mysteriously died, committed suicide. So we'll never know who that son is. Wouldn't it be awesome if we could have done a biopsy or whatever on that baby and found out the DNA of the baby? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could find out if Barack Obama was born in America? Wouldn't it be awesome if we could find out if Fidel Castro was Justin Trudeau's father? Lots of people don't think that the Obama kids are Obamas. That could all be solved with DNA. Anyway, we're off at a tangent here. Number 10, Mary Mahoney. So while the sex scandals are going on with Monica Lewinsky, Mike Isaacoff of Newsweek announced that a former White House staffer was coming out with a sexual harassment story against Bill Clinton. I mean, she must be so annoyed, Hillary, because she just has to do all the heavy lifting, all the murdering, and then Bill gets all this pussy. So, this White House staffer was promptly shot in the head multiple times. She was a 25-year-old girl who was working on his campaign, and the thing was written off as a robbery, but exactly like Seth Rich, nothing was stolen. So I believe she was the White House staffer that was going to go public about Bill Clinton molesting her, and she got shot in the head. Again, this all has consequence when you look at them all together. Number 11, Walter Scheib. This is the Hillary chef I was talking about. Obviously knows a lot about the Clintons, overhears quite a bit. He drowned in a tiny little creek that a mouse wouldn't drown in, literally, on a camping trip. Okay. Number 12, Victor Thorne. He committed suicide by shooting himself in the back of the head. That's one does on a hiking trip. And what's his relation to Hillary? He had just finished a book called Why Hillary Shouldn't Be in the White House. This sounds like a lie. It's true. Number 13, Sean Lucas. Now, I remember watching this video when it came out. He's just like Seth Rich. He was a Bernie bro that was mad that Hillary fucked over Bernie. So he served them. He served Debbie Wasserman Schultz and the DNC with subpoenas, accusing them of putting Hillary over Bernie in the primaries. I think we have footage of that, right? He comes in. It was on a July 4th weekend, so no one was there besides the security staff. And he goes in and he serves them with the subpoenas. And then he says to the camera, "That's the most satisfying thing I've ever done." Just skip ahead a little bit, Ryan. You get that? Yeah. So that's his buddy who's filming it. Mexican dude. That's him there.
People that are really struggling.
That's Sean Lucas. And then if you go to the next link, Ryan, you get him saying, "That's the most gratifying thing I've ever done." A month later, he's dead in his bathroom at the ripe old age of like 42. Yeah, turn it up.
And this is for Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Perfect.
You guys have been served.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We'll see you in court. Guys, thank you so much for everything. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Weekend and happy 4th of July.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
That was probably the most gratifying thing I've ever done.
You ever done?
A month after saying that,
Let's
he's
go
dead
to
in his
the stream real
bathroom.
quick.
You see? And like that didn't end the subpoena. The subpoena had already been put out. He just served it. It's about face. You disrespected El Chapo. You have to die. I'm going to literally shoot the messenger. Number 14, Ron Brown. He was the first black man to chair the DNC and the first black man to be murdered by Hillary Clinton. This guy was corrupt, as was the... Oh, wait, no, he's the second black guy. The Barbells was the first black guy. First black chair of the DNC, second black man to be killed by the Clintons. He was caught selling seats on a trade mission to raise money for Bill Clinton's campaign. But just like the other black guy, Ron Brown had accepted a $700,000 bribe from a Vietnamese businessman that he was caught doing, and it was going to expose all of this DNC malfeasance. So, and this is kind of stylish, by the way, this murder. Just like he was got in trouble for selling seats on a plane on a DNC trip, they decided to kill him on a plane. So while flying over Croatia, the plane crashed, and while investigating the body, they find a giant hole in Ron Brown's head that you don't get from flying a plane. And you know what was interesting about this? The NAACP demanded an investigation. So when it's a black dude, we actually get some exposition here, and we discover that Ron had a giant hole in his fucking head. So that's all 14. And it's so macabre and so spooky that I have trouble imagining that one person like Hillary Clinton could be responsible for all this. I think she started the ball rolling, but she created this whole bizarre, dark, and evil murderous cabal that goes around murdering, shooting in the back of the head, slaughtering anyone who gets in the way of the Clintons. America the Brave is not what it used to be. We are living in a fucking Stalinist state with mobsters, murderer, henchmen, El Chapos running the show. And now any information about that has to be quashed. If I commit suicide at any time in the near future, I did not commit suicide.
Devotion.
I always crumple my bud cans because I don't give a shit about recycling. But by the time I take my little garbage out at my home bar, it weighs like 300 pounds.
It's just
It's
metal.
all condensed aluminum.